Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. You saw the title. Today we are going to be talking about some of my unpopular book opinions. Now, this is going to range from publishing things, booktube, book talk things, just being in the book community, being an actual reader, consumer. Hi. Before we start this video, I also just want to say that everyone is entitled to their own opinions, so by all means, you do not need to agree with everything that I say in this video or anything that I say in this video. I've just seen a couple of these videos. I think these videos are pretty interesting because they kind of start this sort of conversation about things that are going on in the book community and stuff like that. I know that the title is kind of scary and that this video can be taken super negative, but please take everything that I say with a grain of salt. In all honesty, I'm a pretty chill person. That's not me making fun of my YouTube name. I literally titled my YouTube channel when I was like, I think in 7th grade. I'm a pretty go with the flow person, and especially when it comes to reading and being a part of the book community, I read books that I like, and it's a hobby that I have, so I started making YouTube videos about it. Like, it's really not that deep. So keep it civil in the comments if we're gonna comment anything, because this doesn't need to be super crazy. I did make a little notes app of some of my opinions that I just have that either I've seen or that I've been thinking I've talked about maybe on my channel before. So the first thing that I have listed in my little notes for this video, I hate when books have graphics on like the first page of a chapter. Most of the time I notice this when it is like an indie author or a smaller like publisher. I think it kind of makes books hard to read because either the book page will be like blacked out and the text is in white, or it just looks cheap because the printing, maybe PDF wise it looks good, but it never equates when it's actually printed. I don't like it. I think that might be one that I feel like people actually do like those. I don't know. That was kind of the main thing that made me even want to film this video, is because I feel like I've never actually heard people critique that, and I'm interested to see what other people think of that. But yeah, whenever I have a book that has that sort of like print of a picture on the first page of a chapter, I hate it. Now that isn't like if there's graphics in a book. What was a book I read recently that had one? Broken Vow from the Brutal Birthright series had some graphics within the book that were just illustrations, but they weren't illustrations with text on top of it. That I don't mind. Like, I read so many books that I really notice the quality of a book when I'm reading it, when it comes to like how it was put together by the publisher. Yeah, it just makes it feel cheap. I've said that like 4 times. We can move on. My next opinion is bonus content for books based off of where they're sold, I think is really dumb. Now this is kind of going for authors will release like an extra chapter for when you buy it at Target or when you buy it at Barnes & Noble, not when it's special editions, just when they first released the book. I think it's kind of cash grabby, and also like imagine talking to someone about a book that you read and you're talking about a scene and they have no idea because they read a different version of the same book. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, we're not all reading the same story. I know that it is for like a marketing sort of perspective to get more people to buy different physical copies of the book, but books nowadays are like $18 to $20 for a paperback. In the States, that's really expensive to try and expect your consumers who are buying the book to buy it 4 times just to read a different chapter. Now obviously you don't need to, but I don't know, for someone who wants to feel like they've read the entire story and know everything about it, it's weird to me. This one I feel like isn't an unpopular opinion, and I actually feel like a lot of people agree with this, but personally I hate epilogues. I hate when I feel like I've finished a book and then there's an extra 20 pages of an epilogue. Now if it's like a first epilogue and it's a week, a month later, a year later, I'll read it, whatever. But if it's an epilogue and then like a bonus epilogue, I don't care. I finished the story. Most of the time, if a book has an epilogue, I just skip it and I do not read it. I don't know why. I think with how much I read, I feel like, and this is so stupid, but if I take a long time to read a book, I usually rate it a bit lower, just because if I'm in a book for a really long time, I get really bored with the story. So yeah, I don't love epilogues. Most of the time I just skip them. I don't see the point of them. Just put it as like the last couple of chapters, unless it's like that year down the line. But again, I don't know, I'm kind of iffy about it. This opinion I do feel like is pretty unpopular. With the rise of like book talk and book content, there has been a rise of the popularity of spice and smut in books, and this is my opinion, but I do not think YA books at all should have spice. I don't even think that they should really talk about. This is, again, really unpopular, and this could cause a lot of discourse, whatever, but I think when we have younger audiences reading those books, that should not be something that they're focused on. If you want to write that in a book, have it be just a regular fiction or a regular fantasy book. It does not need to be a YA genre book. I know one book that I can think of would be Check and Mate. Was Ali Hazelwood's first time writing a YA book, and they didn't have a scene in the book, but they do explicitly talk about that topic a lot throughout the book. I don't see the point of having it in the books. It doesn't need to be in them. And if you are someone who wants to read spice, I don't think that you should be going out to YA books in order to find that. I'm interested to see, like, moving forward with the landscape of what is going on in the publishing world and what authors are deciding to write, and just obvious changes in society today. I'm interested to see, like, in 5 years what the standards for YA books are going to be, because I feel like it's going to be more and more lenient with that sort of topic. I think of, like, reading the Selection series, or even like the Hunger Games series, and in those books, the Selection series, I don't know if there were ever any spicy or like fade to black scenes, but like I just recently reread the Hunger Games books, and at most you get a kiss, or like they'll hold hands, and that's crazy. Like, that is what YA books should be about. It should not be about the spice. I could go into like a 30-minute rant about that, but we're not going to. We're gonna move on to another one that is a really unpopular opinion. My next unpopular opinion, I feel like, is one that a lot of people are going to disagree with me on. I kind of understand it, I kind of don't. So I personally am a big fan of breaking your spines, cracking your spines, writing in your books, highlighting in your books, dog-earing pages, because it's my book. I paid my money for it. I'm gonna do what I want to the book. And also, like, at the end of the day, one day I would love to have a big library of all of the books that I've read and really enjoyed, whatever, and I want them to look like they've been read. I want them to look like they've been loved. When I reread the Hunger Games series just recently, I was annotating it, and I had so much fun doing that. So now when I go back and flip through the books, I have all of these underlined, quote, dog-eared pages of important scenes and all of these things. I really think breaking in a book and making it feel loved and look like it's been worn in and read and all of that is so, I don't know, like, it's the point of reading. I don't understand the point of not breaking in books and making them look read, because I feel like it just kind of looks like a shopping display of like brand new pretty books that you've never read. I say that, but I also understand the other side of it, of wanting to keep a book in clean and pristine quality. If you look at my bookshelves, for the most part, none of them are like super beat up or anything. I think I have one book back there on my shelf, and it's literally like held together by duct tape. It's Beautiful Creatures. I love that book. I've read it so many times since I was younger, but except for that, most of my books are in pretty good quality. But yeah, I know so many people hate breaking in spines and whatever. When I was reading the Throne of Glass series that's back there, those ones I wanted to keep the spines kind of pretty, because obviously they all look really cool on a bookshelf together. But when it's like standalone books, like, read it, love it, who cares? Stella is laying down on me. Can you? I love this dog so much. Sorry if the camera angle is slightly different. I just had to show you Stella, because usually when I'm filming, she's like kind of low-key terrorizing me, and she's actually just sitting and sleeping. She's never been this nice when I've filmed a video before. My next two book opinions are kind of in the same realm, on the same end. I don't know what the phrase I'm looking for is. So I don't mind people, like real life people, on book covers if it's done right. So what I mean by this, I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. I'm probably honestly looking at the wrong bookshelf, because that is all romance. Like the Selection series, they have a girl in the dresses, America, I think is the main character's name. It's been so long since I read those books. I'll put up some photos of examples of covers with real life people that I do not mind. I think it looks fine. Or actually, good Queen Charlotte. I was about to say Good Charlotte. Is that not like a rock band? I don't think it looks bad. I think when it does look bad, like, there are certain genres that should not do it, like dark romance, or just in general romance, when it's not even really like a person on the cover, it's just a dude in his six-pack. I understand why people hate that, but I do not mind having real life people people on the covers. In that same realm, the opposite side of it, I actually really do not like romance covers with cartoon people. The romance genre and the sort of covers that they do now looks childish. The covers for Icebreaker and Wildfire look like they're meant for preteens, but those are some of the smuttiest books that I've ever read. Like, what? I don't like it, but in the same realm, Emily Henry's sort of like covers that she has, or Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer, I just read that one. I really like that sort of cartoon cover. I think that one is kind of pick and choose of what I hate and what I don't, but yeah, I do not like romance book covers. I think for the most part, recently I've been buying a lot of the books that I read when it comes to like romance books, but for the most part, like I usually will just rent romance books from the library because I don't want to own them. They're really ugly. Speaking of buying books, this one is probably a really unpopular opinion and might upset people, and I'm really not trying to. This is something I've noticed with the rise of popularity with reading, which is such a stupid statement, but follow along with me. I think with book talk and booktube, reading as a hobby has turned more into this like capitalist hoarding of books and collecting. Now, I totally know that reading books and buying books are like two separate hobbies, collecting books and buying books. I understand they're kind of like two separate hobbies, but if you've been a reader since before the sort of Colleen Hoover era of reading onward, you know that like probably what I'm feeling, and I'm not really verbalizing it 100% correctly, but I feel like nowadays, especially on TikTok, these sort of TBR videos of, oh, these are how many books that I own that are unread on my shelves, and it's literally like 80% of their shelves. That isn't normal. I'm not trying to be judgy at all with this because I am guilty for, you know, buying collector's editions and just buying books because I want to buy books. But what I'm trying to get at is kind of more so when it comes to like the Amazon, Barnes and Noble, things like that, when it's buying the same exact book. Kind of what I was talking about earlier, just because there's one extra chapter or there's a slightly different cover. I don't know. Like 2021, I only really bought books when I couldn't find them on Libby or I couldn't listen to the audiobook. That would be the only time I would buy books. Recently, I just buy any book that I want to read. I'm still pretty good with, I have to get through my physical TBR or at least shrink it quite a bit before I'm allowed to buy more books. But I don't know. That one is also another one that I'm very interested to see if anyone agrees with or what their opinions on this is. Again, this is like no hate to anyone. I totally, again, understand collecting books is, hey girl, you okay? I totally understand collecting books and like collecting collector's editions of books is a very different hobby than reading. We all agree with that. I don't know. It's just this weird dynamic, and I feel like lately I've just been so sick of consumerism in general. Not trying to be annoying. We can move on. I don't know. That one, whatever. I built this the other day. It's the McLaren F1 car from last year. It's a little Lego Lando Norris in it. Stella is right now trying to eat it. She thinks this is a toy for her. This next opinion, I actually saw someone on TikTok mentioned it. I do not remember the creator or the video that I saw this, but they mentioned how not every series or book that comes out needs to be an interconnected standalone series. And I first noticed this after the Elsie Silver Chestnut Springs series was released. Nowadays, I feel like every single book that is like a romance book, most of the time it's just romance books, but they don't need to be. It is okay just to release a standalone book. This is why I love authors like Ali Hazelwood or Emily Henry, because they just released their standalone books. I don't know. Sometimes I love an interconnected series, but I feel like it became a trend and then everyone just started doing it because it's easier to get people to keep buying books from you if they fall in love with a world and a character's series than if they just fall in love with your writing and getting them to come back to your books because they just enjoy your writing. I don't 100% really care about this. It's just more of something that I've noticed lately. This one I feel like a lot of people will agree on. I don't like when authors revisit a series that's been closed years later. I can't think of an actual series, but I know the author that wrote, I think it's like All the Things I Wish I Said to Him or whatever that series is. She came out this year and released like the same book from his point of view, and a lot of people read it and they were kind of like, well, I think this just ruined the other book for me, because she released it like 10 years later and it just didn't feel like it didn't need to happen. It didn't need to be released. And I feel like that is kind of the common thing that I always hear from people, is why did, like, they didn't need to go back to that world and keep writing for those characters. Like, the story was already closed and completed. I think most of the time it just kind of ruins what the fans think of the book in the first place. An example of an author doing that well, though, I would say is The Hunger Games, with the release of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I think that prequel coming out years later was so great because it actually adds a lot and makes a lot of things within the Hunger Games series make sense. So yeah, that one is kind of like, it has to really be done right for it not to be annoying. Those were all of my sort of unpopular opinions that I've thought about over like the last week when it comes to reading and the book community and all of those things. Again, I don't mean any hate by this. You know, some of these opinions, maybe in like 2 months, I won't even agree with. I just thought this would be kind of fun and interesting. I want to hear what are some unpopular opinions you guys have about everything. I will see you in my next video, which will definitely not be me just complaining for like 10 minutes straight. I love you. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next video.